find the angle. Yeah. Find the right angle. How to hit it. Right, could be said, couldn't it? Beginning of Pride Month. Good one. Beginning of Pride Month, which is like, now you've got to be on your best behaviour and do your best not to upset us at this time of the month because it's Pride Month and to us that's sacred. It's like, well, you know, make anything you want sacred. Doesn't mean I have to make it sacred as well. As long as we all agree on that, you can have your Pride Month. But just don't make me pay for it out of my council tax. Not unreasonable. Just saying. It's like raise the money yourselves and do it. They probably could. So do it. We don't need, and that's the thing about the LGBT. It's like, it's off the chain. You'll never do anything about that. Do you fancy culling them all? No. No one's got the stomach for it. And even to suggest that it'd be a thing would be a matter just to entrench them in their permanent state of, you know, handbag clutching, vapours. So what do you want to do? It's a matter of, well, they should be able to do whatever they want on their own time with their own money. So take away all the fucking government subsidy for them. What? Yeah. Take the government subsidy away. Even take the educational subsidy they gain. Take that away. You're subsidising them. You're teaching their ideology to schools. You were in essence, if they were from Amway, right? If they were selling a pyramid scheme of products and were allowed into the schools to give the kids some sales coaching, it'd be banned, wouldn't it? And people say it'd be absurd, but I don't see how this really is any different. Not so much different. As you're sending in the, you know, you're letting the salesmen get access to them. Because that's what they are. Ambassadors. Smiley ambassadors of the LGBTQ. And in reality, it's like people who identify in this now combative group who make horrible threats. Most of them look a bit like me. They look more like me than any identifiable woman. So that's a man. It's like, yeah, but that's a man too. So we've got this thing that goes up and it's a matter of, you know what, there's things in that old book about this, isn't there? What? It's like, yeah, the Bible. It's like, have a look what St. Paul had to say about them lot. Just saying they don't ever talk about St. Paul in Christianity. Why? Because we don't need any fucking Christians coming up and saying things. Hang on a minute. This is beyond the pale. This is bad. It's like you're not just going to bring down, you know, God's vengeance, which you can always say that because everyone dies in the end and nobody really knows what it's like. So you can always say that, can't you? But it's a matter of forget that. It's like these guys are going to mismanage the world into the fucking ground long before God swallows them up all and, you know, closes the box on them and says, oh well played. So it really doesn't matter to those people what it says in the fucking book about the way they live. I don't think it does at all. I don't think they give two shits. I think that the way they live is pretty much in spite of what the rules are. It's a direct rebellion against the rules. In fact, it's such a rebellion against the rules, it proves the rules true. It proves the rules are encoded. They are things worth bringing down, things worth destroying. Aren't they? The rules. So it kind of proves them all true. And then you get it as to where you've got all this super degenerate behaviour that's staring you in the fucking face. And then those who would claim to be the leaders of our kind of ostensible religions, even the more supposedly traditional or authoritarian or else, you know, pious groups in the States are not able to capitalise on the situation whatsoever, not able to stop it, not able to make a cohesive argument as to where, you know, God's probably looking down on you. We're not going to say nothing, but God is probably frowning upon, and in the future, he will be, his time's going to be taken up with you. Whether you want to believe in one God or you want to believe that everybody carries an aspect of, in the same way as we all carry around our own version of the universe, we all carry around our own internalized set of things. Basically, the things that will fuck you over. Our survival mechanisms being things like, we get hungry, we all need to go for a shit from time to time. We all eat. We all, like it or not, will absorb one kind of content or another, stimuli. We are beings with senses. Knows to think. Feels thirsty, goes up and puts the fucking kettle on. It's like you take things down to that common base, that baseline as to the world is reciprocal. There are certain things you have to be able to do in order to be able to function, right? Let's call it a bridge to the world. It pays when you've got problems with the world not to lose your fucking temper. It pays to keep you cool, get things done, be able to explain your situation, not run your mouth and get all excited. Don't run your mouth at the wrong people. Don't hold people who aren't accountable for things that have been done to you. Gain a bit of a situational awareness of who you're up against. We do all these things, and we've been doing these things, all of us, every day of our lives. We have to make adjustments and allowances for others in order to be able to continue to operate and function within the sandbox of what our societies are. Got to thinking about other day. Someone used my trigger word, the thing that makes me go, and they said, use the word religion, and then started to pour scorn. It's like, that's the biggest overgeneralization anyone can ever say about anything. And it just makes me disappointed in the person that says it. It doesn't make me, you talk about religion. No, it makes me go, oh God, you must be smarter than that. It's like the number of people in the world who can, they don't believe in God, and they don't believe in monsters, and they don't believe in demons, but they can't half paint out a demiurge and just slap a great big label on it and then start running the mouths in the right order as to where you mock tyranny and evil and going hard on religion, thinking that you're casting some great spell, although you don't believe in magic. Decided it needs addressing again, the old question of religion, and try to do it in such a way as to where it doesn't go off on a crazy tangent. Try to explain some of the finer points of it. There are people who will disagree with me on my interpretations of what it says in the book, but hey, that's why it's there. It's why everyone's allowed to read it. There is no one interpretation of any of it. It's all bullshit. It's all pseudo-science. It's all meta-historical. So no one can really claim the turf, can they? Which is why I claim the turf. I'm not the first person who's claimed the turf. Others have claimed the turf too. Recognise, hey, you know what? You know, we've got a big fucking enemy here that's really, really not helping us in the way that we're enjoying our day. And then what's that? It's like that we sit in hope of deliverance. We wait to be saved by some supernatural I don't know, flying in on a cloud sort of guy. It's like the day someone comes along and they're able to convincingly land from the sky with no strings and say, hey, someone will try it. I've come to save you all with my modern technology. It's like there's something that's an enemy to humanity, and it's like the enemy to humanity that's lingered with us from the start, as far as we can look back, is prophecy. Prophecy is our enemy. Prophecy is not religion. Religious prophecy is not religion. It's religious prophecy. Prophets are a fucking problem. I think only a prophet can tell you what a problem a prophet is. It's a weird old thing. It's like to bring it down, someone has to identify it in order to bring it down. And to identify it, it's like, wow, you've just identified something that's absolutely surreal and incredible. And now you mean to bring it down immediately, and it'd be a matter of, yes, absolutely, this is why you got in so much trouble in the first place. It's like prophecy. The added parts of, there's things about Jesus that, is there only me who understands Jesus? Open question. Really, is there only me who understands Jesus? It's like Jesus was the Messiah. It's like the idea of it was that he killed the myth that was holding his people prisoner. They had these great big fancy churches with their Pharisees and religion, wise men, thinking they had the eye and the ear of God. And here's someone who comes along as to say, hey, that thing they've got, I've got it too. How about that? Better at it than them. Why are we here in the shit, half starving to death, when they're living up in that fucking palace and they don't have to work? What makes them better than us? Oh, well, they're of the elite. They're God's favourite. How do we know? We don't know. Well, how do we face that down? We walk in through the front door and call them out for what they are, and it's like, well, what are they? The con men. This is a great big... Call them out. How do you call them out? You throw down on you. You throw down hard on them with your father's fury. What? You go in there and smash the place? Yeah. And you do it in the name of the same God they claim to liaise with. So you catch them in essence a dogma trap, and you must die, because if everyone was to see the world as that, they would no longer have any control, because the institution that makes them a lot of money and a decent living, and you know, for all the bad it does some good in governance. It's like there might be a few changes of personnel around here as to who gets to say what's good and bad. Can't have that. Must go. So what happened? Well, Jesus went in, called the bluff, and they strung him up. Made a fucking example of him. And everyone saw what they did to him. And in that moment, that tyranny fell as to the lengths they were willing to go to keep their power. And Jesus didn't just destroy them then, he destroyed them in the future as well. He destroys them to this day. There is no Messiah, there's no one coming. The idea of why Jesus is the Messiah, as they say, is that he ended the myth. the Hebrew people had been enthralled by the notion of the end of days, which is superstitious nonsense, isn't it? If we live like that, it's like, of course we're perpetually waiting to be saved. We're at the end of days, someone needs to come along and save us. Look at all these terrible catastrophes in the world. And then suddenly you're creating jobs for people who mouth off as to say, I'm going to help save. I'm going to help save the world from climate change. And how we're going to do that? We're going to put loads of people in the poorhouse in a severe way, in a rapid way, that there's nowhere that we're going to be able to react to when it starts to finally really bite into them. It'll just be one day they can pay the bills and the next day they can't, and it'll be shit street, and it'll be first a lot of people saying whispers to each other as to say, I've run out of money, and then they're going to go to their friends and relatives and they're going to finally open their mouths and say yes, and we've run out of money as well. What? And it's like, it will find itself, select itself, but it's a matter of the shocks to come. And I ain't doom-mongering here with that. It's like, what they intend to do with interest rates, to use the wrong tools for the job, but to stick the boot in, and to be seen to be getting spending under control with taxation. That's money that's just going to be sucked out of existence. Just gone. And it'll be shared out amongst those who are best placed and least placed to pay it. So you're looking at an inevitable collapse in property markets. You might find that the landlord will go bust before his tenants. So it's a matter of, it's okay then. It's like, for a person who's a landlord and they go bust, it's like they can quite easily find a new owner for that house because it's got tenants in it. So it's like your rental markets, your commercial markets for property, they ain't looking good. They are not looking good. And it's like when you start hitting that, it's like, I'm someone who's in the past been a victim of economic circumstances, decisions made in fucking New York. I've put me out of work before. Well, you know, the global powers, the world powers, the unseeable market forces have made it so, you know that, you do a decent job. So, yeah. Well, the unforeseen future of the decisions that people in high places make, they've decided that you've got nowhere to work. They don't need you anymore. And it happened a few times. Someone of my sort of class and standing may go through that a couple of times in their life, redundancy, and it's like, oh shit, I was already in the Last Chance Saloon and now I'm redundant in the Last Chance Saloon. And that'd be a thing as to say, it's like, what did I do to deserve that? And the answer is absolutely nothing at all. Forces bigger than yourself smashed you into the ground. Cosmic forces even. People well beyond your range, well beyond your reach to ask even why. Well, it's like you can be someone who falls off that kind of world. But you can be someone who operates in the real economy, not someone like myself who's ended up being dependent on working for other people, which is the mistake. Those who aren't dependent on working on other people, who in essence make their own way and work from job to job in whichever trade they're trained in, they're about to get it big if they've not been getting it already. It's that level of the economy, the small business level, the small business and the micro business, the ones that it was in essence, it was worth trading with a business of 4 or 5 people. It was worth trading. It's like coming towards the time as to when it's not. It's not worth trading anymore. Why? Because our overheads have wiped out all their profits, and our customers haven't got any money to absorb price increases because they're going to the wall too. If they pay us, it means they don't pay someone else. You find that the supply chains start to dry up in a different way. So where before there was no goods on the shelves because of COVID and the prices were all over the place, and then you'll suddenly get it where people need stuff and can't afford them. And I mean businesses, not just people, businesses. We can't pay the wages and provide the material for the job. You'll hear of people downsizing factories of 20 people to 3, making the same product but producing less efficiently. You'll hear that. But just to keep it going, just to, well, we can scrape enough out of this to keep getting paid. We can keep the lights on. If things change, we can hire back our workforce, but it's never a guarantee. There's loads of that. I know what it is to have lived in the old lap of the gods. A great power on high has decided to put you out of work, my boy. So what do I do now? Well, whatever you like, it's not our concern anymore. The money's going to dry up in about a week. You better get your shoes and socks on, you sir. So I know something of power on the high mountaintop. Felt its sting. Just grinds you up like you're just a sausage, because at the end of the day, there's no one you can ask why. There's no one to be held accountable. If they've done it right, your boss got fired the same day as you did. Gone. Last job I had that was a good job. I went in to be made redundant, and my manager said, I've got you down in my diary to talk to about a promotion next week. And here I am, giving you your cards. Business, company, folded. Gone. Just gone. No. The warning signs as to where they seemed at the time, they were a bit, as we might say, woke in the trust of what the government was telling them about what the banking business was doing. And yeah, that, you know, worded better. I'm seeing this, that subprime meltdown, worded better, could have been avoided. Just say it out there. Worded better, it could have been avoided. That 2009 market crash, because it wasn't the damage done. It was it was when the banks started to make margin calls and started to wreck things to try to draw back money. That's the damage done to the market. The banks retracted. The banks made credit more expensive. They cut off people's supplies of money because they were having problems. That's the crime. It's like, if it was better explained what had happened, right? There was no reason for it to happen at all. If you wanted to drag in some guy to explain derivatives, right? There's actually an objection to them, which is the reason why you can sell a derivative as a AAA fucking product. You fools. And it's like, why? It's like, because out in the world, offsetting that derivative is a building made of bricks with windows and a roof. And you know what? We got the technology to tell you that it ain't in no rundown neighbourhood, and it's a matter of, it's got a value. Yes, the one down the road sold for £250,000 last year, and it's the same floor plan and in roughly the same state of modernisation. We know what it's worth, and it's bricks and mortars, And we've got a chain of these papers offset against that, and that is very real. There's no funny, fresh air money about that, because if we wanted to sell it, our book here says we can expect to get 250,000 for it. You start to talk to people who start to talk down or crack on talking about the how the banking and finance industries are all corrupt, and they have to oversimplify it to make it so. So you start to talk about asset value. What's something actually worth? Well, what's this piece of paper written against? And it's a house. Although you get some fools say, well, that's just money generated from fresh air. And the thing that's of value is the piece of paper in that safe with the man's signature on it. It's like that's the thinking of a thief, who's got no notion of property, doesn't know how to look after things properly. You've got a malfunction in your brain if you can't see that. And there are those who can't. And those who can't, you know, often end up in bad situations as the prophets of doom. They deliberately omit a powerful influence or something that actually gives the system equilibrium and say, look, the whole thing's tipping over. The relationship between climate change and the sun might be something that's worth thinking about just for a moment, but no, that fucks it up. No, you're taking away from the no, you're off now in outer space talking about like cosmic rays and photons and the like, and in the meantime this world is sinking. What are we gonna do about it? The science is settled. There's no time for a debate. It's been at a stalemate like that, you know, the climate debate has been at that stalemate, that impasse for all of my adult life. I became extremely skeptical about climate change in about 2002, 2003. Having had me doubts, I suddenly knew for sure. When you see that the objections, right, I mean, I'm from the sales trade. If you don't handle a customer's objections, you're not going to sell them something. So if you've got objections, you're not going to buy it until your objections have been handled. That's just part of the rules of commerce. And it's the same with any kind of, any imaginary notion, anything you want to sell someone, whether it's fucking real estate, whether it's a car, whether it's an idea. They've got questions about it and doubts, and you don't address them, they will not buy the house, the car, the idea. You have to handle objections to make a sale. The objections to climate change have all been out in public since about 1999 as far as I'm concerned. The objections have been standing and no one's ever done anything but just mock the people who made the objections and hound them out of business, put them out of work. That's all they've ever done. Just gone absolutely histrionic fucking nuts at them and put them out of work. I wonder if, because the ego, you have to fall into that kind of thinking, but it's absolutely there. It's like my attitude towards like net zero and any kind of meaningless thing that's been done towards reducing carbon emissions to mine, it just makes me sick. I don't have to worry that the world is going to end due to catastrophic climate change, because it's not. That's a fairy tale. That's a prophecy. That's the enemy of religion. It's a prophecy. So that's a prophecy. I don't believe in prophecies. The only prophecy I believe in is my prophecy. And what's my prophecy? Well, you need a prophet to tell you that prophecy is the enemy of humanity. But I have to see idiotic things done. Where I don't think, this is the thing about it, right? This is a serious thing, and it's bad to think like this. Those who are really in on the climate change thing, who stand to earn the most, who stand to benefit the most from it, they know it's bullshit. That's why they'll never handle the objections, because they can't, because it's bullshit, because lies don't stand up to scrutiny. And that's not been allowed to be scrutinised, really. It's been taught to young people as fact, so they don't question it. But then when they start questioning it, they find themselves, you know, almost unpersoned. You could be the sharpest fucking tool in the box, and one day you stumble across something for yourself that make you sceptical about some benefit of doing something to the economy, and take it to your boss and say, what's this in aid of? And suddenly the system hit you in the face and turned you into a climate change denier. Turn you into a guy. Those guys who said this is scams, right? There is absolutely no real need to be doing what we're thinking of doing here. If the whatever the outcome might be, it's like the world's safe. It's like, imagine, right? I say that the world's not going to end, right? No, through climate change, bullshit. 25 years time, I could still be around feasibly, and they'd be saying we saved it. We saved the world because of what we did. And it's like, well, at the time you said we didn't do enough. Ah, well, you see, that was carrot and stick. We had to motivate you. Now we've saved the world. And because, you know, you can claim the laurels, can't you, if the world doesn't end, because it's not going to. So they can just reshape the economy to, like, in some regards, remove the old money from power and replace them all with, you know, the new elite. And there's like the new elite. Well, the new elite activists, bloody hell, they're gluing themselves to things, aren't they? The elite. I went to a the person. Is it a woman or a man who's glued themselves to the Oxford Union? Went to a £41,000 a year school. What the fuck were they teaching her there? For 41 grand, I'd be wanting. For 41 grand, I'd be wanting my kids to learn about how to mind control people with fucking shame and body language. What? Yeah, I'd tell you, you must get something mega out of it. You must get the unending ability to put ruffians in their place. They must be teaching you something magical for 41 grand a year. You must be getting that proper tough training. That hey, no, look here. You must have been getting taught some of that. But he is not. That sort of horrible boys' school education somebody like that Lawrence Fox had, where everyone's a bully. Shape a person, that, in a few different ways. Not all bad. Jesus was the one who was supposedly the end of the prophecy. He closed the book on it. He was, if you want to believe it so, because they have, it's part of the religion, is that we close the book on the old prophecy from the Hebrew book, and we, you know, move on without, and then suddenly you've got a happening hundreds of years later as to where you've had certain books added to the Bible at the end which give light to prophecy. And it's like, who said this? Whose word do we have for this? Oh, it's this old manuscript attributed to St. John. Do we recognise his handwriting? What? Just saying. Have other people in the past made these prescient, legendary sort of forecasts? Yes. And what were theirs like? Much like this. You don't say. It's like the Necronomicon, isn't it? It's like the Evil Dead. It's like, right, we've got this Bible here. But, you know, for us lot, because you get people who have stood on the outside of it looking in of the old knowing and the old code. It's like, we've got to be able to put a devil's door in this. Why? It's like, well, what chance have we got? This wipes us out of existence. It's like this set of rules, as it were, right? The first line of resistance to us manipulating other people to get what we want is the first person we try and fucking bully. It's like, without you know, the devil's door, we got no way into them. If these people understood what they were and understood the law and understood why, it's like, this is how we behave. Why? Because this makes sure everyone's safe. Why is that? It's like, because the resistance to bullying comes in the first fucking time it's tried. And everybody knows about it. What? And they do it. You've seen it. You've seen people do it. The policing. The virtual world, it's become a force. In the real world, it was always a force. There was a time when people got word of your criminality. That was it for you. You'd have to move to the big city, or you'd have to join the Navy, or go to a port somewhere and do something completely different, because you'd be exiled. Whether some judge exiled you, or whether the people in your neighbourhood just said, no, we don't need people like you. I don't want... These are things like, you know, he's spent time with my kids. What if my kids become thieves? What if they catch that? And they have a point about humans and how we learn behaviour. They weren't stupid. We get this, don't we? Where you appear in a picture with someone else. Oh, you're in a picture with someone. It's like an association. It's like, it's only the same thing. But when, you know, a certain group of people do it against a certain other, it's seen as being backwards thinking. But in another moment, it suits to say, oh, they're friends, they're in a photograph together. Fucking double standards everywhere. Christians, if they were any good at all, right, they would hit like fucking hammers against those who were attempting to bring the culture down. But it's like, hit like hammers isn't make YouTube videos like this. It's like, I do this, right, because I've got, what am I on now? I'm on about minus 60 quid in the world cash flow, right? And the most I can do, right, because I'm not for destroying my own neighbourhood. I'm not for destroying anything. I'm down for kind words and a household where one's allowed to have a cigarette and a conversation. That's what I like. But it's like, I can only afford to do this. So I do this. It's like, there are those out there who can afford to do more and don't. They could actually just afford to just fight the fight. Because it's actually, you know, the world of it, right, it's more serious than people let on. And it's like, most folk in the world don't recognise just how bad things are. And it's better for them that they don't, because they might not be able to handle it. And it'd be like that. It's like, just to see just how crooked and skewed it is. It's like, it's a terrible burden. Everyone doesn't need. I'd had some conversations lately about certain other people who operate in the YouTube space who see themselves the guru, right? The advisor, the guru. And I do something like that myself, right? And don't do too well at it, to be honest. But in like one major case, I've actually just imbibed my methodology to do it. I'm like, he can't do that. It's not going to work for him. Why is that, John? Is it because he's not celibate? What? Yeah. He's not celibate. He's not celibate because celibate's like always an advantage to this. This is a good trade-off. It's like, you can't tell me, say, Andrew Tate, who was complaining earlier on, he'd given an interview to the BBC and they've not treated him very well. It's like, who for a minute thinks you ever get a fair hearing off the BBC? Who could be so naive as to think that? And it's like, well, you're either playing a deliberate game and riding it for sympathy, or you're the stupidest person alive. Same result. He can't be the man he claims he is, the seer like he is, because he's a pimp. When you get these fucking twats, right? I'll tell you, twats who talk up wisdom, talk up discernment, talk up transcendental, higher forms of life, wisdom, right? None of them will say, works best if you've been celibate for like 7 years. Like what? No women. Yeah, you don't chase women. Ever. And he's like, and know what you sacrificed. And there'd be a way of looking at it as to where you can actually have an angle as to where it's like, I'm like Neo in how I've dodged bullets. You don't understand that. The guru types, I'm telling you, those who think they've got some insight, it's like, okay, how long have you been celibate for? What? Yeah, that gives you massive insight. To be deliberately sworn off, that gives you insight. That really makes you smart. It's like you'll get someone who, that's the thing, it's a funny side of it. I don't know if I've hit it like that before and just flat out said it. I think I've skirted around it. So, you know, we're like Kanye West. And it's like, Kanye West appears to have had a visit from a god I recognise. I might be able to save him some painful lessons here. Like what? It's like, well, that wife of yours, she's gonna have to go, mate. Gone. And she was gone real quick, weren't she? But then it'd be a matter of, you can have a great gift here if you want it, but you have to swear off it. You're done. Just like you're celibate. And the wisdom that you've always sought, the peace that you crave, you'll get that in return. Put your dick away. What? Put your dick away, can you? No, surely not. What if I could just find another woman who's like a bit more caring and it's like, no, that's why you got in so much trouble in the first place. Are you going to do it over again, can you? And it'll be a matter of, yes, he'll do it over again, and then he'll do it over again, and then he'll do it over again, and then it'd be a matter of, oh, you got that far from understanding it, and all you've done now is create an even worse situation as to where now your hopes are high and you're at the last chance saloon. Can't tell these, you get younger guys sometimes you talk to and they've never been with a woman and it's like, mate, it's like, if I could trade places with you and you just, you know, it'd be a matter of knowing, right? Knowing what you'd be likely facing in like 2015, 2016, 2017, what you'd likely be facing in meeting up with strange women online and then pursuing some kind of imaginary thing with the amount of, with the, basically the state of your mental health and the state of theirs, you'd be signing up for an absolute disaster. And now you'd be somehow trying to rationalise it. And that be that the problems you've got now be duplicated, be made numerous times worse. It's like, I'm sorry to say it, guys, but a woman is not the cure for your problems. A woman cannot come along and make you suddenly whole or sane or happy. It's just impossible. It's just in people's imagination, the notion of is they can. It's like you set yourself up to fail. I don't set myself up to fail. So it's like I got mixed up now 10 years ago with a very dangerous young lady, and it was a matter of, I put it to her, it's like, I'm celibate, you know, I'm deliberately not engaged. Deliberately. And I'm like, and there's very, very good reasons why. And I can explain my reasons why. And then it'd be a matter of, I basically trusted someone who wasn't trustworthy. And that went badly, as others might have expected that, but I didn't see it as that, because it's a matter of the sacrifice I'd made was profound to be even engaged in that kind of thing. So the level of betrayal I felt was severe, like really, really bad. And it's that I'd broken my celibacy, and that what I had before, I would never get back. I was a sharp kid, more ways than one. What the edge I had, the only real edge I had, I'd literally spunked it. $10 years ago that, and it's like, nah, since then it's like not even chasing. I think it's now been 7 years since I've had any female contact in that regard, and it's a matter of it's not worth it. It's not a worthy trade. It's not to me appropriate or fair. No matter how I've ever manoeuvred, I've always been held accountable for the actions of others in the eyes of women when they choose. And I'm not someone who can be easily dominated intellectually. So this, we do as I say, I'm just forever going to be just questioning. And I can't not do that. So it's like I'm not suitably house trained. Ha! It's like, no, I like to be in command. And the notion of being in command is, in some regards, quite sickening to a lot of women of my generation as to what you'd want to be in charge. Yeah, and you back me play. Do anything. You want to be in charge. Yeah, but, you know, it's for you. I'll run it for you. But they find that like, oh my God, there's something wrong with you. You want to be in charge. You think that you're smarter than me. And it's like, well, I am, aren't I? Oh, you really think so? Well, I'll tell you what it is. You're done. Now how smart are you? And that'd be just a standard game. I see these standard games being played in all different directions, and it'd be a matter of, you accept that, you put up with that. It's like, what choice have I got? friend of mine's wife divorced him, and she just did it like bang, papers, done. No conversation, just wallop. Been on the internet, got smart, and she'd found herself a lawyer that she could fraternize with, and who would help her get a story straight, and in essence be in league with. And it'd be a matter of kept a diary of his movements for like 6 months. And then petition for divorce, unreasonable behaviour. And I'm told, I haven't seen the statement she made about his behaviour, but he said there was no word of a lie in it. Not a single word was a lie. None of it. It just summarily judged the time spent like socialising or being with his... He's a guy who lives near pubs, spends time in pubs, likes his pub, would visit a pub 4 and 5 times a week, sometimes even more. But that be always been the terms of what had been their marriage. For their entire marriage of years, he'd always had his pub tradition. But suddenly his pub tradition was deemed to be unreasonable. And she divorced him, and the world found in her favour. Yes, it was unreasonable because she said it was, when for years it had been something that was acceptable. It's like, what kind of a deal is that? And the answer is, it's not a deal. It's a very, very one-sided affair. It's just not a deal. See, bet there's crisis. There has to be, say, with things being squeezed, there'll be crisis about by way of men who are being bullied, pressured. When they say domestic violence on the rise with the COVID, it's like, well, 50% of domestic violence is perpetrated by women at least, and then instigated by even more. It's like, I do not live in one of those pressure pots, and I never will. Why? Because it's the enemy of reason. It's death to reality. It's a shit deal that you can't walk away from and not lose everything, and there are those who do. But then there are those who walk away with nothing, who they thought they'd signed up for life. Spent a long time in my life trying to identify what it was my friends had died from. Lots of them died. It's like for the circle of people I've kicked around with, they die early. I've seen so many people who reaching around my age, like 40 onwards, have died. And they've died in like over a period of 3 and 4 years where the drinking just become more intense, and same time, same guys on their last legs still turning up for work and the like. And then the next thing you know, he's just died. Liver failure, turned yellow, died. Or I've got a long process of drinking yourself to death with the cheapest beer you can find. And sometimes it takes some fucking years to die. But in the end, they meet their end. I can tell you with a mortal certainty what was wrong with all of them. It was the divorce and the betrayal and the blame. Having been no more than half responsible for what happened. No more than half. As to where from action you get reaction, Even the sanest of us and most reasonable and kind can resort to being cruel when we're on round 10 of tit for tat. And it's like pushed to the limit and never come back. Just never come back. Found out what all my mates died of. You know, a foolish guy who would have been about 60 starts to get a taste for going over to that Thailand. And he an absolute fool, decides, get married to one of these fine ladies. And then she be the most industrious person in the world when she gets to sunny Manchester and she starts to like go and work at the Thai restaurant because this one's got a trade. And then the day it lands, the day she's eligible to be a British citizen is the day that she's gone and takes all the pots and pans with her. Gone. And then her workmates are then suddenly sort of defending her like older brothers, and you can't get anywhere near, and it's like the rug's been pulled, see you later. It's like when that happens to someone who's older, right, they will descend into 60 pints a week until they die. It's like there's one who's not dead and he stopped drinking like he did, but he still drinks. He just found his way into better company. So he changed his habits to accommodate being in better company. And then a lad who'd been hit with that, where the wife decided no more, and not cheated on her or anything, you know. She'd found someone better and you're out of here. So kids' lives get turned upside down, but she's decided she's gone. Used to sit, watch him sometimes, and at dinner time would drink 16 fucking pints. And he's lost all that incredible weight he had, but he was like as fat as a house, like round with it. And he'd pick up a pint, and he'd take the head off it, and then he'd put it down, and then he'd read a bit more of the Star, and then he'd take another swill of it, and half a pint in one wallop, and then he'd put it down and he'd continue reading, and then 2 minutes later, third wallop. Another pint, please. I used to know a guy who went in a pub, and it's like he obviously had fucking problems. And he came into what was a local I used to drink in at the time, and everyone who were in there were a little bit kooky in one way or another, including my good self. It's like I could be seen as being someone who was in there learning, who was like an inside man, you know what I mean? I was a double agent for the good guys in a bad place. Used to be a lad who came in from work who was some IT guy, and he used to drink something called Iyengar D pills. Now, if you've never heard of that, look it up. It's like, at one time it was on draft at like 10% alcohol. It's really strong. It's like 9 point something. And they used to call it mystery beer. Well, point to mystery beer. I can manage to drink about 2 of them, but I'm just blotto off it. It's absolutely... You're just drunk. You set about drinking that, it's like, right, okay, what we'll do is we need to get pissed really quick. Why? Well, you know, we've maybe got a function to go to. We do well to be in this company to already be a couple of sheets to the wind. If you can get a taste for that stuff and get a couple of them down you, you know you've had a pint. I'll tell you. It's like, he used to drink like 7 of them. I'm telling you, you couldn't manage more than 2. You'd be like, blah, 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 blah. Just so much alcohol in you so quickly. And he used to drink until he couldn't talk every night of the week in that place, straight from work. Every night of the week, drinking until he couldn't talk. And then next thing you know, he's cleaned his act up like 5%. And it's like, what's happened here? He's cleaned his act up 5%. he's got himself a girlfriend who's this very attractive young lady from Sudan. Where the fucking hell have you found her? And she was a mail order bride of the guy who lived in the flat next door, who he pinched off him. What? Yeah. Pinched her off another guy who paid for her to come over. Pinched her like Bron going out to find whores. She was happy with the new situation because our guy was on decent money. Better money. So she signed up for it. He must now have been dead for how many years? When wheels fell off that, like dead. Like he'd be 20 years dead him. And so, well, what did he die of? Well, you know, when the whole thing gives up, when it just becomes an alcohol system, and the whole thing, all the neurochemical, you know, everything gets like soaked in alcohol, and then the thing that would be driving them to strive, be driving them to go and score, just like a smackhead. Drunks are the same as smackheads. They're the same. Although smackheads probably leave you alone. To have seen in my life so many people die like that, and been there in a pub talking to someone, and you're like, you're not long you're not long for this life, you, the way you're going on. And they know it. It's like they accept it. It's like they accept it in that moment because they'd never give it up. Do you know who they are without it? Who they really are. They're who they really are when they're not on the drink. But they can't stay like that. They'll stay like that on the proviso there's a drink coming. So then you get people who are alcoholics who are wildly inconsistent in their behaviour. That has the effect of gaslighting the crap out of just about everybody, and then has the effect of making that person who's someone who feels guilty, certainly if they're those kind of people who really get drunk because they've been wanting to reward themselves because they've been craving a drink all day and think that it's a fucking fine old thing to have gone till 7 o'clock at night without having a drink. If I could choose between them, the alcoholic who stays sober all day when he's at work is a fucking arsehole, an arsehole to be around. Just a waste of fucking time. Give me a guy who's pissed 24 hours a day and I'll work with him. There's a friend of mine who's still in the world. I'm sitting for a bit. I need to catch up with him before he croaks. Put it to me, he was in the motor trade, and he used to have a lad working with him who was a heroin addict, right? And it's like, well, what did you have him doing? He said, mostly rubbing stuff down and sanding, and he was good at it. It's his trade, but he can't do it unless he's fucking hammered. But saying that, this was a workplace of mine where it's a matter of you go down to visit him while he's at work just because you're going past. Cause it's one of them places as to where if you have a mind to, where it used to be, you won't be working there anymore. But if you had a mind to, you could find your way there. It wasn't so far off the beaten track. You go 5 minutes walk down here, I'll go and see my mate. I used to get there to his little garage and it'd be, do you want a beer? And it'd be 11 o'clock in the morning. And he'd be, do you want a beer? And you'd have like a fridge running, and you'd in the fridge would just be like a couple of boxes of cheap lager from Aldi or somewhere, not the cheapest but cheap, and it'd be throw a can at you, and then it'd be like, do you want a drop of whiskey? I'd be like, you are? Oh yeah, a bit of a chase, get down here, and then next thing you know, the speed's out. You don't want a bit of whiz, do you? It's like, what are you trying to do to me? I've got to go back to work. He'll have called in for it. He's like, But he put it to me, because he was in his being self-employed. He could indulge his habits all day, and it made him so he was stable. So he'd never be too drunk, and he'd never be too on drugs, and he'd never be tripping too much. He'd be all right. And he said, any day of the week you'll work with that smackhead before working with a guy who's like into the beer, into just drink, who would leave that place and then be on his way to the pub to spend more money than the smackhead's paying to get a glow on, to get a drink. Seen it, murder them all. And you know what? I like drink, me. I don't drink anymore. It's cup final day Saturday, so I will be having a drink. But I'll do it once a year. So in doing it once a year, sometimes twice a year, if I get invited to a good function, I might go. But often, if I go somewhere like that, I drive. So I don't drink. Or I'll have one. And be like, no, I'll drive. I'll make it so everyone else gets there and gets home. I'll do that. I'll give the gift. Because I don't cope so well with drinking. Because I only do it. I do it ever so infrequently. And when I have a drink, I do enjoy it. It's like, it's good. I can remember that moment again. You know that there's a great line in an old movie I saw, and it's probably been in everyone's own life. Watched a film called is it The Last Command? It's got Jack Nicholson in it, and it's about two sailors who were taking another sailor to go to military prison. And he's done something. He's a bit of a dickhead, but he's done something a bit petty, and they kind of feel sorry for him. And it seems like it's a bit of a travesty. So they decide on his way home that they'd kind of show him a good time, but they won't let him in the bars because he's too young. So instead, they find themselves a liquor store and get themselves 6 cans of like Budweiser apiece. And 4 cans into a 6-pack each. Jack Nicholson just turns around and says to Randy Quaid, it's the best drink in the world, isn't it? And I'm like, sit there giggling, I'm like, you know what? It fucking is, isn't it? Final thing that when you get like 3 pints in you and you get that glow on as to, I remember why I like this stuff. I remember why I was such a connoisseur, and it's like, this is a fucking old. This is a place that's so familiar, isn't it? And if you learn, you can just go to visit. You can enjoy a drink. I've never been a person me for drinking on my own. I've done it a time or two, but not into it. I'm a person, actually, if I drink on my own, mate, I used to. It would be, once you've come home from the pub and they've kicked you out, to be drinking whatever you've got left in the house, that's where I fall down. Or in house parties and the like, I've been known to just drink the entire establishment dry. It'd be terrible, it'd be shameful in the end. It's like, who drank that bottle of Sambuca? Who drank that bottle of absinthe? That'd be me too. There was a thing, year 2000 it were New Year 2000. Went to a good party where a lot of effort had gone in. People had planned what the itinerary was and who'd be there. And the lad whose party it was, he used to always make an effort, decent lad, Ben. And I ended up, I had a toy fight with someone, like a not full contact fight. As we used to say when we were kids, toy fighting. It's like we weren't setting out at each other, but we were definitely fighting. And he didn't kind of realise it's like how what's the word, dense I am. And when we were having this sort of scuffle, it's like he got like just a hint of a good nudge, let's say. And he fell backwards and fucking smashed this guy's cooker. Smashed the door off this cooker, and a brand new thing. It was like fucking state of the art, brand new fitted kitchen. Lots of money's worth of damage. And it's like, hey, hang on a minute. It's like I barely fucking touched him. It's like he's dived. I ain't fucking. I'm only like half accountable for that. I'm only half responsible for having broken that. And it made a hell of a din. And it was like people were thinking something like real bad had happened. It's like, no, this dickhead here on drugs, right, drunk, decided to have a toy fight with me and fucking lost very badly. And this is what happens when you're fighting in people's houses, and I didn't start it. Whereas that actual night developed into everyone of a gang of lads, quite a few of them, and I didn't get involved in this, wrestling and fighting with each other outside, and the mates. People did get hurt, and it'd be they went out and they didn't hurt each other, but they went out and they fought and they wrestled and they and it was like, as that was becoming a thing between them, as to one of the gang had brought that kind of culture with him. He was a bit of a dickhead, and he'd been learning how to grapple and wrestle, and you wouldn't want to fight him. I'm just saying. Because he'd taken to like getting older people and putting them in wrestling traps and stuff, like knotting them up. So it's like if he would actually grab you, and he'd be a dickhead, and he wouldn't let you go, but he didn't mean to you, and he was just a bit of a laugh, But if he could get you down, he'd like put you into one of his fucking holds, and you'd be like, right, okay. But I didn't let him get away with it. Whereas one of his mates who tried it, it's like it came unstuck, smashed the place up. But that was before I drank the bottle of absinthe. No one liked it. There was a big bottle of absinthe and it looked like it had some money spent on it, and I was the only one who drank it because I thought it was quite nice. I really fucking enjoyed it, drank the whole bottle of it. So you've had a bottle of absinthe, and then another weird thing about that night is that I kicked up fucking holy hell the next day that my personal supply of what was at the time, it was a nice bit of like pollen, like very compressed, very, very nice, like a very good quality solid cannabis I had. And a big fucking slab of it and all like sides of a credit card about that deep had gone missing. And like, one of you bastards has had that. And there was no witnesses available as to where I never got to the bottom of how it was. But I'll tell you what, I put my suit on, a fucking year later I found it. What a fucking bonus that was. That's actually the nearest I think I've really ever come to having like a major windfall in life, where you sat there and you're weighing up, and it's like, how long is it since I've worn that suit? And you're weighing up, let's go and see if it smells. Let's go and see if it smells of cigarettes and beer, and if it doesn't, I'd probably wear it again. Get to it, and in pocket you find like a big fucking, Hallelujah. That's one where it's a matter of fucking getting on the phone and say, hey, guess what I just found? You know what I'm going? Remember that big brick of weed I found last year that I accused you of stealing? That last year that I accused you of stealing of? So you accused you of stealing? Yeah. Sorry about that, I found it. Oh, nice one. Bye. Bottle of absinthe. That weren't thing that though, it were a weird one, walking home and all that absinthe fucking full as a gun. I'd drunk the town die, taught myself stupid, witnessed all kinds of fucking crazy shenanigans going on at what was an infamous party for about 5 or 6 different reasons. The only infamy that's part of mine is that I broke the cooker. And that'd be the thing that most people remember, I should have thought, because that was the noisiest. But it wasn't the longest lasting. As to where on that night, in that place, it was like the world got destroyed and shattered with betrayal. It's the core of that group, of that fellowship, destroyed forever on that evening. Its beating heart alienated itself from then on, in my mind. Like a fucking a steak was like jammed right through the middle of it. So like when it comes down to it, in life, you know, things that really matter. When they say things that really matter are the kids and the wife and the home and the security, right, when that's threatened, right, who are you then? It's like, you ready for that? And it's like, I have to be fucking smart. And I've never been in a position to be able to afford any of it. Afford. And that be why, a part of why it's not something that goes on. Women are not so stupid as to bring home guys who've got no wherewithal to earn any money, but some are. But then they've usually got other angles. Anyone who's worth being with isn't going to accept you in when you're broke, and it's like the economy's broke me, so it's a matter of, okay, what's a realistic situation for me by way of being, you know, say I was 28, 29. And the doctors tell me that I was, you know, not too long in the world. I've got no stake. I've got no money in the banks, and it's a matter of became an unskilled worker practically overnight. I'm starting from scratch again. Who the fucking hell's ever going to want to throw in with me? You'd have to be crazy, and it's true. So all I can expect is crazy. All I could expect to come knocking on the door is crazy, and it'd be absolutely 100% what happened. And I knew it would, and I had it down for that, understood that. Having worked out many years ago, right, that I've always had plenty of friends me who've been married, friends who've been with women, friends who've been with this one and 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 this one. And you know, of the guys who are in trouble out in the world now, the difference between me and them is when it's been offered to me on a plate, I've said no, mostly. Or when it's mattered most, I've said no. And not got myself involved with unknown crackpot who was the fortunate enough one to say, do you want to say hi? It's like, yeah, I've knocked a few back. It's the only difference between me and guys who've been married 2 and 3 times. It's the only difference. I said, no, you're all right. Or, no, you know, you might reconsider that when you're not drunk, right? And you know what? They all did. You'd already done the business then because you rejected them, you see. Women put it, when women throw out and just give that, Yeah, you don't hear from him again. You don't get a second offer. Not that you might take it, but there's people like around me, always been around me, and in exactly the same situation that have said, I've said no, no, no. They'd have said yes, yes, yes. And another 40, 50 besides. And they count that towards as to how they're somehow better and more worthy. And then it'd be a matter of, is that the measure of a man in these parts? And it's like, yeah, that, and how good you are at football. Really? Yeah, that's about it. How well you might be, how well you might do in a fight, how well you might handle in a struggle, how many people you could draw to your cause if push come to shove. Them are the sort of things that are metrics of what a man is. So you get it where a chap like me will get to talking and have some lady say, "You're not married, John?" I said, "No, I'm like celibate, mate. I'm not playing, not getting involved." They immediately have to ask, because the concept is so absolutely alien to him, as to say, if you actually put it as to say, "No, I know better and can explain the why of it," and it'd be logical. You say, well, it's a trade-off, isn't it? Let's be real, it's a trade-off. Now, in that trade-off, you win, but it's a trade-off. So if you think of it, like if you're one of these people who harks and harps on, oh, there is some woman in the world for me, right? Well, right, that's a trade. Feeling like that can be seen as a trade-off for having independence and not having all of the everything that goes with the treat it as that. When it comes up and grabs you, think about it. Oh, well, you see, it's like, I've played through that Jedi Survivor 2.5 times. Is there any woman in the world who'd have fucking put up with that? No, there isn't. Not even one who was a part-time one who likes to send text messages and make phone calls. They wouldn't stand for it either. And then it'd be a matter of, well, can't you sit on the settee next to me and play the same game on your console and we can be together? I'll play it. And like, no one's going to do that ever. Never, ever, ever. It's like you get to a certain level as to where your expectations need to become sensible, right? So the most sensible expectations I've decided, right, is I've given my independence a price. I got the idea from that guy who was trying to just grift. That JF Garipi recently has just been, he created a worthless NFT and put it up for sale as just a money laundering method. If one of his rich donors just wants to give him some money, they can just buy this NFT and he gets like 100 grand or something. And he just put it to his audience like that. Look, if you want to give me a chunk of money, you just want to, here's a way you can do it anonymously. Here's an NFT. Right. I'm celibate, right? I'm not on the market, but I would sell my independence. I see my independence as being worth 3 million. If you give me 3 million, I'll marry you. But it's going to cost you 3 million. So you can buy out my independence, but that's how much it costs. So I've given myself like a husband price. Now, to my mind, that's actually a fucking good idea. Not just for myself, for everybody, if you think of it that way. Because that will keep your feet on the ground. You're going to turn your life upside down to go chasing tail on the other side of the world. It's like, let the celebrities do it. as to celibacy and not feeling bad about it because of bitter experience is not something that everyone needs to do. It's not what I'd have asked for. It's not what I hoped for. And it's not that I'm not useful. I am. I'm useful as hell. I'll be like, don't go down that path. Why? Because I've been down there and look at all the time I've wasted. Look at all the fucking potential that just went nowhere. Me putting a high price on myself in the past, like that, a high price, right, has protected me from the worst of the ailments that have killed those around me who've died. Difference between me and them is that they said yes and I said no. And that's the only difference. It's like, there's an old boy who died, and his wife was a fucking lunatic, but everyone thought, oh, she's great. But he wasn't so smart himself. And she was in essence using him, she was tricking him. And she would carry it on behind his back with anyone she could lay her hands on. And he was in his way. His routine came to facilitate her nymphomania. And in the end, when she catfished herself someone who had money, she ended up destroying the life of her son and his life. Going off, they say, she's found someone decent. Because she used to tell a tale that he was the bad guy. But it's like, to the day he died, right, I think only of the guys who were seeing his missus behind his back, I think only one of them was left alive when he died. I wonder if he told him yet. Seriously, I wonder if he told him. Word has certainly got his way because people tell tales, don't they? But it'd be a matter of nobody'd ever admit it, but there's things been said, and it's a matter of amongst the women to say that any of it's real would get you silenced. She's a good woman, she's this and she's that, and she was our mate, and he was such a bastard to her. Right? And then amongst the lads, it's a matter of, we don't talk about... He can't know about that, but it's alright for you to know. Like, you wonder why people have got fucked up mental health problems, and it'd be a matter of... People he thought his whole practical adult life were his friends, weren't. They'd taken the piss out of him. They cuckolded him. And he might have had an idea that they had, but the realization of it being true be too much for his very simple mind to be able to process. So he's able to pretend like it didn't happen. It's like I think somebody managed to wind me up earlier on. There was someone tried to give me a lecture on the truths of ADHD and long COVID. Someone give me this condescending bullshit that they know better. And it just threw me into that thinking about, bitch. When people got things wrong, problems, right? The second you take it away from the individual, you're just a cunt. You're just talking out your ass. As soon as you've taken it away from that individual case, you're out your element. It's like individuals. As soon as you slap a label on, and as soon as you attribute, it's like you'd be able to identify. But I tell you what, you're never going to get anywhere near. It's like, if the stories of like, you know, the tales of the working class tales of the mentally unhealthy were to like break out, they kind of seep out into the world, don't they? We read about them and hear about them in papers, and it'd be a matter of these episodes to be made public, you know, as to how some people live. It's like this country couldn't recover to look at the depths of its own depravity and its wounds. And it's like there's a thing to be done for someone who wants an idea for a TV series as to infiltrate a crowd in a pub. Be a dishonest prick. Be a London twat. And go to some like Preston or Lancaster or Blackburn or Burnley. Find yourself a pub that's still got people going in it, which is going to be a wonder to find, but you find one and go and listen to what they think right and wrong is, and you'll be amazed when you realise that you're actually surrounded by villains who would always side with the underdog no matter what he'd done. You're surrounded with villains who cheer for the guy who escaped. And it's like, what company must these people have kept for that to be their notion of right and wrong? It's like, that's who they are, you know. They've seen it all. It's a way of being dismissive. To stand against the norm, and the norm is to say, fuck everyone. To stand against that, not to protect other people's fucking lies. You're wrong, aren't you? You're a bad un. Once it becomes clear that that's what the culture is, and how it lies at the bottom, you might realise how much fucking trouble you're in, and how there needs to be better people than that at the wheel, and they're not. They're no better. They're the same. You've got middle-aged, deluded degenerates. And more in the middle classes, and then more dangerous, more violent, more dangerous in that they're more silent too. Working classes who are every man for themselves, unless the price is cheap. Tell you, it's like people like myself at the bottom who, you know, just ended up poor. So you had a few chances to turn it around, but you didn't realise just how much trouble you were in right from the get-go. So you failed to launch, and you failed to launch because you didn't know you were fucking born, son. And when people fucking give it you straight to your face when you were 21 that you're a fucking idiot who didn't know anything, they were on the money. They were trying to teach me something. Some of them at least. Anyway, we've already been saved. That's the thing, isn't it? That is the thing, you know. We've all already been saved. We've already been saved from prophecy. And then they brought it back in. The devil's door in the religion. The devil's door in the world. Prophecy. What's the modern prophecy like? What's the mainstream prophecy? Climate change, war, starvation. That's the prophecy, isn't it? It's like, who's spinning that? Well, it's kind of giant effort, but it is what it is, isn't it? It's prophecy. Prophecy's your enemy. Prophecy's been your enemy from the start. Prophecy gives people power. You've been getting told these recurring tales. You've been taught how to best rebel in order to become work for the system. Clearly. It's like, it could be said that the system has overstretched its power, but it could also be said they've already thought about that. And it'd be a matter of that food price thing, fuel price thing, stops people getting about and keeps them in their homes, doesn't it, a little bit more? And they're happy with that. I mean, the bosses, because now we've the same ideological group that have already captured all of their local authorities and business have captured the government now fully under the Sunak. So it's like you've now got the Global Labour Party in power, and that they're no longer taking instruction from, or they're not taking feedback anymore, and they're taking their instruction from up on high. They've mapped it out that, you know, the stock market listed companies all have to obey these rules of wokeness, and if they don't, they'll be downgraded. It's like it's already done. They don't care. They don't actually care what happens to the people. They don't care what happens to us. They don't give a fuck. The way that the way they see it working, they're going to put it in place and they're going to run their experiment because they think they're fucking brilliant. People in the life seek meaning. Right. To save the world, we have to stop people who want to save the world saving the world. And it'll sort itself out. It's like, address them. Don't try and save the world. Address the people who are trying to save it. Stop them. Stop them trying to save it because it's folly. And why do we know it's folly? Oh, some of us are smarter than them. Some of us are even smarter than them. We can make the case. It's very important that we're not allowed to speak.